without this. Tonight we're talking about catastrophic events, monstrous developments, and signs from the heavens. Very simply, the Old Testament and the New Testament, this is in review, are filled with Bible prophecy, and a great deal of this prophecy is connected with the nation of Israel and the city of Jerusalem. However, there are a lot of prophecies that deal explicitly with society and the world as a whole. The Apostle Paul gives one such prophecy in 2 Timothy 3 as he vividly describes the bizarre mindsets that are going to develop in the thinking of society as we come closer to the end of the age. And this is a perfect example why we carry around our actual Bible, because this is not responding, and I wanted to read the first part of Timothy. It's switching versions, but it's not switching to what I need. Said the Apostle Paul, when we look at what Paul says in this chapter, along with specific signs, Jesus tells us we're going to see as we draw closer to his return. It's plain to see that God has chosen us to live in the very end of the age. So how are we supposed to respond to all these strange developments that are happening all around us? How are we to live in a world that's spinning out of control? A world that is failing morally and headed towards catastrophic events. God has not called us to be filled with fear, and each one of us have heard that preached hundreds of times in our lives. And to take on depressed, defeated attitude of the rest of the world. It's one of the heartbreaks of mine is when I meet up with a Christian and you go, how are you doing today? It can't get much worse than what it's getting. You say, what? And I know not all of us jump around for joy every single day, and especially every moment of the day. I'm one of these people that, I don't smile 24/7. But at the same time, I don't want to walk around with a defeated look, a defeated attitude. I want to, and I'm not one of these also that walks around with a smile on my face. I'm going to fake it. No, I'm going to tell you, I'm doing good, I'm doing good. Then I might end it with, I lie a lot. But hey, there's some things still going on, I'm human. But again, especially, and I'm not trying to get into philosophies and things, but a lot of the word of faith people, I don't ever have a problem in the world. I believe right through it. And well, I tell you what, matter of fact, Courtney and I were talking the other day. She might have a broke toe. I don't know how to take care of it. You ever had a broke bone? Yes. According to the word of faith, though, I haven't, because that thing's healed, even though I'm limping and it's hurting. But to walk around with a defeated attitude is complete. It's actually a denial of the word. Because we do not have to walk around and be defeated. Instead, he wants us to get into his word and know, and it has here the words boldly, really know. And again, we've heard it preached. I know that I know that I know that I know. And sometimes it takes that knowing to break through. He wants us to know how to thrive in any situation, in which we find ourselves. Remember, through Christ, he made us more than conquerors. Romans 8:37, this is the New King James Version. Yet, in all these things, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. The emphasis on this lesson has been going from Matthew 24 and Luke 21, that in the last days, increased seismic activity will take place globally, and a vast number of earthquakes felt in various places all across the earth. This is a major sign that Christ's return is near. The disciples basically asked Jesus in the 24th chapter of Matthew, Lord, what are the signs that we're going to see as we journey down this prophetic road that explicitly tells us how we come to the wrap-up of this age? Jesus looks at them and says, okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of a clue of what's going on. Jesus pointed to the multiple signs we'd see before his return. It says, the Bible says, and Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. Jesus continued in the next verse saying that this strong delusion will even try to find its way into the church. This past Sunday in Sunday school, we discussed this at length because we are talking about, or this past week, we talked about being able to discern. And we talked about how it has crept in the church that you have to be able to discern even what, quote, a lot of preachers are ministering now. They are not ministering the word. It's been going on for many years. I mean, not going down a rabbit trail, but I remember years ago a guy pulling out a newspaper and said, okay, let's read current events. And he wasn't preaching, he was reading the newspaper. And I actually saw this. And it's like, what? This was, and I want to say the beginning, but it wasn't the beginning, but this is when it started really showing up in the pulpit. People were like, okay, people don't want to hear the Bible, they don't want to hear the Word, let's circumvent it. We're still coming to church, we're still getting together, we'll throw in a Jesus every once in a while, we'll throw in a hallelujah once in a while, and everybody will feel good because they came to church. We have to be able to discern what is right, what is evil, what is righteous. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Jesus went on to describe two major signs before the end of the age in verse 6. And he says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. I have loved when I started studying the Word and I read this verse for myself. Because how many of us have heard, there's wars and rumors of wars. Yeah, and ever since I was a little boy, every war that would come up, oh, this is it. This is the last one. This is it. But they never read the end of that verse. And the end of the verse says, the end is not yet. There's going to be all this stuff going on. And we need to get ready and prepare ourselves. But just because the rumors are going on, this is not the end at this point. Then immediately after notifying us that there would be wars and rumors of wars, Jesus said, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Then in our last lesson, we learned about two more last day signs that Jesus predicted. He said, and there shall be famine and pestilences. Tonight we're going to talk about earthquakes in diverse places. And, is another major end times sign. How many of you ever lived through an earthquake? Been through it? Now, the first one, and I don't remember it, I remember Dad telling us about it. We slept through it. Young kids, Dad, checked on us and made sure we were all okay, and just, woke us up. Like, what's going on? It was an earthquake just happened. It shook the house. You wake kids up in the middle of the night, an earthquake happened. Oh. And this is back when, earthquakes didn't happen in Richmond, Virginia. We were known for hurricanes. We didn't have tornadoes. We didn't have earthquakes. We had hurricanes. And we had a season for it. seems like I don't care what part of the country you're in. You know, the Midwest was tornado country. The West was earthquake country. Now it's everywhere. In preparing for this, it actually brought back to my mind talking about tornadoes. I remember when I was working at UPS, and we had a young lady that her and her husband had been married a short time, found out they were expecting, and they were very excited over the baby, and she had taken the day off. And she actually, I don't know who called who, but one of the girls at the office and her was on the phone talking. And of course, the girl that was off was ribbing the one that was telling her how she's enjoying her day. I bet you wish you were off and home with bed. And it's like, okay, you can call me back, call me back. And this was still more with landlines than cell phones. I'm not even sure we had cell phones. Say that to the kids, they won't know what that is. But as it turned out, I think they lived in Bumpus. I actually still have our address written there. A tornado went through, destroyed the house. Her husband was at work. We were actually at UPS was renting space from a bank, and he worked for the bank that our offices was in. And a bunch of us rushed to him because knowing what was going to happen when he received the word. And I thought back again, we never had tornadoes around here. Yet, changes happen. Changes happen. There's a line in the Bible that says, gray hairs are among us. That God is letting us know. Time's coming to an end. Time waits for no man, and there's changes that happen. And the seismic activity is part of it. In the Greek word, earthquakes, is the word seismos, which is where we get the word, and now I'm going to say it in my tongue tied, and I apologize, seismic activity and seismograph. Here the word seismos is plural, indicating multiple earthquakes, a lot of seismic activities. Now, I may be mistaken, I don't think I am, but it's like I remember last week there was an earthquake somewhere that killed several people. And again, in studying it, came back to mind that, we just had an earthquake not too long ago. And I don't remember where it was. I'm not even sure it was in the U.S. But it was like, it's exactly this. They happen so frequently, we ignore them. We ignore when we hear about it. If it don't kill a few thousand, it's no big deal. I think it killed maybe 7. Not sure. It's still something that should have our attention. But again, we, along with everybody else, have grown numb to things that we're supposed to be paying attention to. These are the signs we're supposed to be looking for. Here the word, because the word earthquakes, the Greek word seismos is used in the plural form here. It is emphatically tells us Jesus was predicting a time of prolific seismic activity that will occur at the end of the age. Jesus wasn't a weatherman, but he could predict the weather. And telling us this is what's coming. This is what you need to be looking for. Luke also wrote in chapter 21, verse 11, and great earthquakes shall be in divers places. The word great earthquakes in Greek literally means great seismic activity. The word great in the original language can depict something large in size, or it can mean numerous in quantity. And we have both happening, in large and in numerous. Furthermore, Jesus stated that these earthquakes will occur in diverse places, which means the earth will be touched globally by increased seismic activity towards the end of the age. The scientists record today demonstrates the records are part of Earth's geological history. They've gone back, and there's a show on one of the channels, maybe National Geographic, I'm not sure, called Drain the Swamps, where they now go in with computerized stuff and show what ships actually look like before they sank. They've gone into the pyramids and things, and they run these computers and scans, and they show how intricate they're built. But also they go to excavations and have run and showing this is where this city was, this is where this time frame was. One of the things I thoroughly enjoyed in the study we just completed of Revelation Unveiled was talking about the different times in history. The Iron Period, the Stone Period, the Copper Period, and all the different time frames we hear about as we were growing up in school. And yet, to us, it's history. It's stuff that happened. But yet, the geologists can actually go through, as they're digging through these excavations, and go, this is what went on during this time period. This is what went on during this time period. And I found it very interesting, especially someone like myself. I love reading about knights and swords and the Christian battles and things that the Bible talks about. Even King David, about it was a season for war. They had a season set aside to let's go to war. And I'm like, say what? But actually, they can go back and show. And during that study, we discussed it, about the different periods of time. And I find it very interesting where it talks about the geologists actually prove what Jesus is saying, that over the time, there's going to be earthquakes, and there's going to be more earthquakes, and more earthquakes, numerous earthquakes, great earthquakes. And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. Jesus continued in the next verse saying this strong delusion. Whoops. I flipped the wrong page. I'm sorry, we're back. I know y'all said, please don't go back in. But Jesus was not giving a geology history of the earth when he spoke these words. He was prophesying about the future in Matthew 24:7 and Luke 21:11. In both places, Jesus said, shall be earthquakes. If you ever have the opportunity to study the shall be's of the Bible, I challenge you to do that. To go up and look up, excuse me, every verse that goes shall be. Because it is an awakening of what the verses are saying. And Jesus says here, there shall be earthquakes. He was pointing to the very end of the age and forecasting what will happen in a condensed period of time at the very end of the last days. Therefore, according to Jesus, increased seismic activity will take place globally, and a vast number of earthquakes will be felt in various places across the earth. And this is mentioned several times in this study. So I don't want you to think I'm just repeating myself just to hear myself speak, but it does repeat this statement. This is exactly what we are experiencing in the world today. Our earth is true. The U.S. Geological Survey currently estimates several million earthquakes occur every year. Million, several million, not just one. 1 million is big enough, but several million. Although many of them are undetected because they occur in remote locations, millions of earthquakes are occurring annually. Nonetheless, just like Jesus said, And today, because of advanced scientific equipment, we're able to measure the intensity of many earthquakes and determine that the number of earthquakes has steadily increased since scientists began recording and analyzing seismic activity. I find it interesting, and I'm not a science person. I look up information, I find out information, but I am not someone that loves science. And my daughters, that's different. They like science. But I do find it interesting that, we do not feel earthquakes that are happening sometimes. But yet the little seismic needles, and you watch it go up and down, and it's like, ooh, that must be a strong earthquake. No, that was nothing. How many times you hear about the earthquakes, but it's the tremors after the earthquake, the afterquakes, that are more damaging because it's a constant. It's almost a ripple effect of throwing a pebble in the water, and that ripple keeps going on and on. It may get out of your sight, and you may not see it, but until it hits land, that ripple is going to keep going. That's the same with earthquakes. It keeps traveling and traveling and traveling until, no biblical proof here, God says stop. That's the line where you end it at. In Luke's Gospel, Jesus clearly stated there would be great earthquakes as the time of his return approaches. And that's what we're seeing. Hence, we can infer from this verse of Scripture that the word great may mean great quantities of earthquakes and seismic activity. This prophecy ties into what the Apostle Paul said in Romans 8:22. For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together unto now. Amazingly, even the planet knows that this present age is ending and another one is about to be birthed. Even the planet is expecting. Each earthquake is like another contraction. And like a pregnant woman who is in labor and about to deliver her child, the earth is groaning and travailing, laboring, waiting for the manifestation or the birthing of the sons and daughters. Yeah. Pastor said it last week. I believe it was last week he said it. And it didn't take a rocket scientist to understand it, but he's never birthed a child. I've never birthed a child. I have no plans of ever birthing a child. Don't want to. But I've been there as they've been born. I've been there with the expectancy of waiting for that child to appear. I've been there as the contractions started. And all of a sudden, we went from expecting this child that we've gone through this pregnancy together. It's getting ready to come forth. The expectancy, the excitement. But the woman, the mother, feels the contractions more than the father does. And the earth is waiting with excitement. The last days generations will see fearful sights. Looking once more at Luke 21:11, Jesus said, and great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines and pestilences, and fearful sights, and great signs shall be from heaven. Notice the words, fearful sights. This is a translation of the unusual Greek word phobotron. And it describes, I love its definition, monstrous events or scary events. In all history, the words fearful sights are a mystery. The phrase comes from the Greek word that depicts fright, horror, or something that is scary. The Greek writers usually use this word to describe monsters. So these words conjure up horrific images and feelings of dread and horror. I believe Tony brought it up during the last study in talking about Revelation and the things we've been taught throughout our lives of what the end times is going to be like. And not one time did any minister go, it's going to be a happy time. It's going to be horrific. It's going to be horrible. And again, in doing this study, talking about how billions will die. And some of the things that people have got to go through, that's where this word monstrous and horrific really comes in. What Jesus was referring to in Luke 21:11 is not exactly clear. But whatever these words mean to the last day society, Jesus said they would be monstrosities in the eyes of God and to the minds of men. One possibility is the phrase refers to some form of cataclysmic natural disaster. It's interesting to note that when Jesus prophesied about the very end of the last days, he specifically listed several types of natural disasters by name, which might indicate that this additional warning of fearful sights refers to something else entirely, because it's not specific. One previously imaginable possibility has arisen. Because of scientific and technological advancements, there are so many new developments that something horrific could be unleashed in our times. Possibly Jesus was referring to something of a scientific nature. How many times have we keep hearing, oh, look to the sky, this is what's happening, this is what's happening. Oh, and it wasn't that long ago, it was a rocket ship falling. And they're like, oh, it's going to fall and it's going to hurt so many people. It'll probably kill thousands. And everybody, well, not everyone, but a lot of people turn their eyes to the sky to see what was going to happen. It is sufficient to say that there are many different scenarios that one could imagine that would fall under the umbrella of Jesus' warning about fearful sights. Any ideas will remain firmly in the realm of conjecture because Jesus purposely kept this warning vague. Isn't it interesting that whenever things are talked about the end time, because no man knoweth the time, no man knoweth the date, no man knoweth the hour, everything was given to us vague. So all these people who constantly come up, I figured out when the end is going to be. Their end may have already come and they've already been buried, but we're still going on. The world is still going on. So the end time that they depicted and said it was going to happen has not happened. Because even Jesus gave vague warning. Because he himself, he knows what's going to happen. He doesn't know the date himself. Nevertheless, one thing is clear. As a child of God, we do not need to be afraid of anything that is coming in the future. We have the Word of God, the power of God, and the blood of Jesus. And we're going to be all right. What's to say? I've read the book, and the end tells us we won't. There will also be great signs from heaven. There was one other thing that Jesus said we would see in Luke 21:11, and it was, great signs shall be from heaven. The word great here is the form of the Greek word mega, and it describes something that will have a mega impact on the population of the earth. It is something that is monumental, far-reaching, and deeply impacting on the earth and its population. Whatever these great signs are, Jesus said, they will come directly from heaven. Again, let's look up your redemption draweth nigh. This is what the phrase literally says in the Greek. From the heavens or something descending directly from the sky. Therefore, the majority of the human race will be aware of it. Again, how many times have they talked about asteroids, and falling stars, and meteor showers? What was it, last week? That the moon happened, and people were amazed how much rain we got? There was a big change in the moon. It's going to affect what happens on Earth. So yes, we had lots and lots of rain, as well as other things that probably happened that we didn't even pay attention to, that scientists are probably going crazy about. But therefore, the human race will be aware of it when it takes place. And when these great signs come from the heavens, they will tell us we are on the precipice of the very end of this age and the beginning of the next age. How many of you know what that word means? I'm not an English major, and I had to look it up even to pronounce it. But very simply, it means it's a steep rock or a cliff or a situation of great peril. There is going to come a great peril, and we're on the very edge of it. We're on the cliff looking out as it's getting ready to take place. Now you ask, what exactly are these great signs that we're going to see from heaven? Again, Jesus was not clear on what it is. It may be a mammoth meteor, it may be an asteroid, it may also be a solar flare. There's always a possibility that it is something we've never even considered. Over the past year, the black hole has been a lot of discussions. Can you imagine if the Earth slipped into a black hole? Into nothingness. You talk about seismic activity happening because of away from the pull of the sun and the moon. And this is just ideology. This is just talking. This is not biblical. But this is the things that we do not even think about. You know, we talked about it in here. Steve talked about it. Pastor talked about it. We Americanize everything. Everything we talk about. Well, there's going to be a mega disaster. There's going to be great things. What is mega? What is great to us? As Pastor talked last week, what is a hardship on us is everyday living in a lot of countries. What is mega to us? It's monster. Monster to them. So what we think is, wow, they are fearful sights to them. At the same time, some of these people live in the fear of being eaten by lions and tigers every single day. Our biggest thing is, did we make it through the red light or not? We have no idea what these activities could be. We do know that there is going to be earthquakes. There's going to be wars. There's going to be rumors of wars. But whatever it is, Jesus emphatically said, it will be great. From the Greek word mega. And it will have a mega impact on the population of the world. It will come directly from heavens and will be a monstrous, horrific experience to those who witness it. I know a lot of people have gotten away from listening to and looking at Al Lindsay stuff, because a lot of people actually like to talk against what his theories were. But I can tell you, watched a video years ago from Al Lindsay, and he was describing things that is happening now, that he said, is it possible this is what John saw? And when he was describing different, and again, the study we just had actually refuted some of what, without mentioning his name, refuted some of what he said. But he said, talking about the stingers that come out of these, insects and things. Is it possible? Is it drones? Is it helicopters shooting off rockets and fire happening from them? We don't know. We don't know what it will be. But we know that there is opportunity out here because man has increased in knowledge. Man has constantly come up with weapons of warfare that we don't even know about. How many weapons came to be because the military was running war games, if you will, and all of a sudden the normal people, civilians, that's the word I was looking for, civilians picked up on something different in the air, something different in the sounds, and all of a sudden we found out about a new weapon they're testing. Lesson says that it's coming from the heavens. It also says that it could be coming from the earth. It will come, thus at the very wrap-up of the age, just before Jesus returns to rapture the church, he said there will be great earthquakes all over the earth. They will be like contractions of a woman in labor, ready to give birth to her child. Jesus said there will also be monstrous events or signs taking place in the skies and descending to the earth. Our generation is going to see things in the heavens on a global scale that no generation has ever seen before. Can you imagine some of the things? And one of the things I like to talk about in our age group is something we consider normal, and I actually hit on it a little bit earlier, is cell phones. How many of us even have landlines in our houses anymore? We all carry around cell phones. Mama has one, huh? I saw that. We kept one for a long time. We never used. But it was in case of emergencies. The bars go down, you ain't got a cell phone, pick that phone up. Emergency in the middle of the night, it was easy to pick that phone up, not know where's the cell phone. But I remember when we got our first cell phones. Lisa said, it'll be for emergency only, I promise. We will never use it except for emergency only. She's going to kill me right now. She would call me and go, I love you. Baby, I thought this was emergency only. It is. I want you to know I love you. Right now she hates me. She's going to kill me. But, see? But when they started coming out, I remember the first cell phone I ever saw. I was working part-time at a store. This guy comes in, and he's looking at some electronics, and I'm showing him whatever it is he's looking for. And he said, I'll have to call my wife and ask her. And I'm like, okay. And he keeps standing there. And he goes, I'll have to call my wife and ask her. And I'm like, okay. I said, we got phones up at the front of the store if you like to call. Well, I don't need that. And this was the whole thing. He was setting me up for this. And all of a sudden, he pulls out the Get Smart shoe. I mean, it was some huge white thing. I mean, it's huge thing. I'm like, what in the world? Oh, buddy, I'm at the store and I'm looking at it. And I'm like, and I walked away. I don't care what salesperson helped him after that. It won't gonna be me because I didn't need to be around somebody who wanted to be a smart aleck. And that's all that was to me. But the point of this is that was so new to us. And like I said, kids today, most of them don't even know what landline is. You know, the joke is, give them a rotary phone, and they'll just, you know, and it's been on, you know, Facebook and things. They hand them a rotary phone and say, call this person. How do you work this thing? And they can't figure it out. How many other things in our life that we take commonplace today? Microwaves. Cars. In all reality, cars are not that old. But every teenager thinks they're supposed to be given a car name. But what's coming down the pipe? He said a minute ago, it's going to be something that generations before haven't seen. How many things has this generation seen? Our moms and dads did. Our moms and dads be going, what are you talking about? Think about our forefathers if they could see where we are today. And I'm not talking about the troubles in the land. I'm talking about technology stuff. They had no idea. Even Ben Franklin, as much of an inventor as he was, had no idea that we would really be lit up the way we are by walking in, flipping a switch, and know the lights are going to come on. How many times, we touched on it briefly tonight, is something been going on in the heavens, and we don't even pay attention to it anymore. It's not that big of a deal. But yet, we are supposed to be looking up and keeping our eyes towards it. I remember several years ago, I had taken the dog out at nighttime, and I was looking up in the sky, and this meteor shower was happening. And I mean, bing, 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 it was wonderful. This when I was still working at UPS, because I got up the next morning, and I would get up 4:30, 5 o'clock, take the dog out. It would still be dark. That's why I knew I was still at UPS. While the dog was doing what it needed to do, I was leaning on the fence, and I was looking at where I was looking the night before in the sky. And wow, it would be neat if I could see some more of those meteor showers. And it clicked in my head. Sometimes things just work in my head. That it's like, you know, when you're looking this way at nighttime and you see Orion's belt or you see the Seven Sisters, the next morning they're behind you. And I went, and I turned around. And sure enough, the meteor shower was still going on. It was not going on as strong as it was the night before, but it was still happening. I was going to miss it because I was looking in the direction that where the night before I got used to it coming from. And I would have missed it if I hadn't listened to that voice go, turn around, turn around. How many times are the sights right before us for something, and we're so fixed on what it was? Stepping on my toes. How many times do we talk about the Meadowood of the past? When God has something in the future, if we will just turn around. If we will just turn. Pastor, that one was free. Jesus is about to come. He's about to come again. Only I don't mean to keep pointing you out, but I can. And tonight, you're my kitchen. But actually, on this, you're my eat. Because again, in the last study we did, you spoke tonight about giving the book to Jonathan and his wife, and how you talk to him. And I'm sitting over here and I'm listening to you speak, and I feel the passion that you're speaking with. That's the passion we're supposed to be having. It's the end time. We're still looking the wrong direction. We're supposed to be turning around, looking for the future. We're supposed to have that passion to let people know this is the end. I want to make sure everybody's ready. Lisa and I had the privilege today, and it was a privilege and an honor. Very unexpected, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but about a month ago, maybe a little bit longer than a month ago, we got word of a young girl, 2 years old or younger, that needed prayer, heart surgery. And we're talking to the father about something completely different, about some business. And he got talking about how nervous he was. It was before school break, because he was looking forward to school break, because they were going to take a vacation so he could get away before his daughter's surgery. And Lisa looked up at me and said, I already saw it on your face. And I told him, I said, you came here for another reason. But I'm telling you, God brought you here today. So I don't know what your spiritual life is like, but if it's okay with you, I want to pray for you and pray for your daughter. And I didn't wait for an answer. Lisa also commented afterwards, I forgot about COVID stuff. I just reached out and took his hand immediately. And she said, you should have done that maybe. But we prayed. As it turns out, his partner called Lisa that night to talk about more of the business we were discussing. And he was so pumped up. And I was downstairs, Lisa was upstairs, in what she has turned into her office, working from home. And I heard her voice on the phone and said, my Lord, she's witnessing to somebody else. She come running to me when I got off the phone. Emmitt, guess what? Mike was the guy's name. He went back to the office and told his partner what happened. As it turns out that we didn't know, his partner has been witnessing to Mike for months and months. And he's like, you set me up. You sent me over there to those people for them to pray. And he's like, I had no idea. I know nothing about those people. He said, but this is what I've been telling you. There's always somebody out here that God has placed you on their heart, and the moment you least expect it, He's going to put them right in your path. We kept very close tabs with him and about his daughter, how the surgery go and stuff. In fact, they contacted us that afternoon, I believe, and said she's home. The surgery did not have to be performed as bad as they thought. It went much easier. She's home. And Mike, her father, said the biggest problem we're having is keeping her staying still for the healing process. Today, he brought her to our house. He was coming over there to do something. And he brought her to our house. Beautiful little girl. Beautiful little girl. And I told Lisa, we were inside the house, and I went, I looked out the window because I heard him talking. I went, he's talking to a child. And I looked out the window and I called up the police and I went, guess what? They're here with some of the work that we're doing. I said, but Peyton is here. And she went, who? That's the little girl's name. She's like, I'm on my way down. Came downstairs. We went to the window to watch. And one, yeah, that little girl loves her dad. You can't tell things wrong with that child. And we went outside and spent time with them. Mike told him, and he didn't really have to tell her to be nice to us and all. She was just a wonderful little child. Waving at us, smiling. And he said, these are the people who prayed for us. Tell them thank you. Now I know if the Lord tarries, that little girl probably will not remember him at least. Until my dying day, I will remember that little girl. And I will remember mine. And I'm hoping that Mike will remember him at least. I'm hoping that through this lesson, through what I'm speaking of, with what I talked about, the passion Tony had, the passion, I know you've got to hear what the passion is in me right now. This is the last days. We had no idea that day that I would be witnessing, and I say I, that we would be witnessing, or we would be praying, and from that time since, we haven't grabbed him every time he's walked in our yard. Mike, are you saved yet? Did you get saved? Mike, are you going to church yet? We haven't been doing that. We've been living our life in front of him. We have been asking about faith. We're still praying for God. Still praying. Jesus is about to come in. We're supposed to be passionate. We're supposed to be looking up. In our next lesson, we're going to see how widespread persecution will come to the church is another major sign that the end of the age is drawing near. The Apostle Paul said, it is plain to anyone with eyes to see that as at the present time, all created life groans in a sort of universal travail. We know from our study that the urge to rape is like the contractions of an expectant mother.